Good morning. Welcome. My name is Jason Smith. I'm going to be your host today. This is a podcast where we talk about all things new in the new construction or new home construction across the Triad. Today I am joined by Andy Dreyfuss with Triad Homes. We are out here in High Point and we're going to talk about their product and how they target the 55 plus buyer. A little bit about Andy. Andy is a partner at Triad Homes. He's been a part of companies such as the Piedmont Angel Network, Coca-Cola, Apple.
Correct.
A master's from Wake Forest University here in the Triad. And I've known Andy for a long time, and we've done a lot of deals together, and we've had a good time, and I've always enjoyed getting to know him. Today, we're going to talk about how homes are designed for the 55 and up buyer and how they target that in their product. So we're going to start out on the development side, Andy. Tell us about when you're looking at a piece of land, what characters, traits, or things are you looking for that meet your market demographic?
Sure. A good question. The first component is the property needs to be close to major amenities, right? So our home buyer is 60 years old and up, and so they want access to grocery, pharmacy, medical office, and also they want to be somewhat close to a freeway system, right? And say this carefully, but as one ages, driving down small two-lane roads is not what they want to do. So they want to be close to major transportation nodes. So that's the first thing we look at. And then obviously we get into all the other things that every other land developer worries about, which is how flat is the land.
That was my next question.
Needs to be topography is very important. Water is great at the beach. Water on a site is challenging, so we need to be very careful when there's streams and how big are they and what are the requirements with that water and crossing them. And so we primarily look at proximity to amenities, the topography of the land, very important. And thirdly, we then have to imagine after the site is developed and we have homes here, what is our home buyer going to be looking at? I know this sounds kind of strange, but our home buyer, our homeowner, is in their homes. They're retired, right? So, and we feature a side patio, courtyard patio, private patio, and so what they're looking at when they're sitting outside or they're in their front yard is critical. Noise is not good, and the scenery must be decent.
So one of the things you touched on is topography, obviously. When buyers are coming to your neighborhoods, one of the things I notice is the affordability. So in order to keep it affordable, those things all play a big factor, because when you're bringing homes on the market in let's call it the 300s,
right?
You can't have a lot of land and development issues. So that's where that topography, whether it's cleared or, all those things, whether you have to cross easements and all kinds of things play into that. But you're looking for ways so you can keep your product down in a certain price range, I assume, as well, correct?
Absolutely. We have a housing affordability issue in the country. Let's face that, right?
Yes.
And that's probably not going to go away in the short run. So, we want to make these homes as affordable as possible. They're generally expensive per square foot because we're on one story, right? One story, which is what our home buyer generally wants, right? They are 60 plus and steps are not in their future, right? They don't want steps. So zero entry showers, zero entry into the garage, et cetera. So it's really important for us to keep the lot price down so that we can build them out.
Speaking on price, how financing? So are a lot of your buyers cash? Do they have special lending programs in place on your end?
Right. Well, fortunately, this is why we like this market. Our home buyers, are 2/3 are probably all cash, right? Okay. Because they have built up equity over years and years and years, and this is their final home generally, right? And they know that they want this to be their final house, so they can bring 100% equity if they want to. Obviously, they're worried a little bit about financial liquidity as they age, right? So if they take all of their equity and put it in the next house, that might crimp them. So they might run a small mortgage. And then generally, in the last few years, you're finally getting paid to have cash sitting in a savings account, right? So you can get some interest. That hadn't been the case. So our buyers at least least impacted by interest rates, which is what I like.
In this world of high rates, that's a good situation. The next question, you guys have an affiliation with Epcon. I'm not sure everybody knows who or what Epcon is. If you would like to touch on that, number one, and then number two, what benefits does that bring to you as far as plans, designs? Because it's a twofold question. There's things in this home that target that buyer. You mentioned the curbless showers.
Yes.
One step or no steps from the garage to the home.
Correct.
Talk about some of that affiliation
Sure.
with Epcon and how that benefits your product.
Sure. So Epcon is a national builder based in Columbus, Ohio, been in business since 1985, give or take. And between themselves, so imagine like McDonald's has their own stores and there's franchise stores. They themselves build 600 or 700 homes a year in Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, Charlotte, Raleigh, Atlanta. And they have a group of franchisees like me and us that like their system and like the product. And then we pay a royalty to use their products in our local marketplaces. And the reason is they have direct consumer insights and direct research on what each generational cohort wants in their home and what their needs are and what their problems are, right? We're solving problems with housing, right? What their needs are, and they change from cohort to cohort. So baby boomers to Gen X, slightly different. They have the direct research on what that is, and it leads to this design, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And it's things like, obviously, zero entry showers, no steps, lots of light. This courtyard, which hopefully we'll get into, this patio, is accessed from 2 points in the house, not one, but it's accessed from the primary kitchen living room space right here, and also from the owner's suite in the back. And so that's why we're an Epcon franchisee, because they're experts in what the 55 plus wants and needs out of their housing.
Right. And that brings a lot to you, saves you a lot of time, design, marketing. Right. We're going to step on the patio here in a little bit, and we'll be out there talking so we can show the viewers. What level of customization can buyers expect and can select when purchasing a home with Nova Triad Homes?
Well, first of all, the home buyer, our home buyer, is 60 plus generally, and they've been in 4 or 5 homes, and so they know what they want, and they deserve what they want, and they generally have the cash for what they want. And so we offer a fair amount of customization. I mean, there's some things that we can do structurally with covered porches, screen porches, transom windows. We will move some walls inside the house for them if they want to do that. Obviously, the footprint of the house can't change, right? We're 42 feet wide generally, and there's different depths. But so there's some structural, and then obviously, like any builder, we have all the different levels of cabinetry, kitchen designs, flooring, lighting, countertops, all that stuff, tile backsplashes. So there's a fair amount of choices, and it can be overwhelming to some extent. And so our sales team are experts at helping them figure out really what's most important to them.
Well, I notice in this model home we're in today, obviously most of the living area is on the main level, but there's actually a large second level.
Yes.
And I'm assuming buyers have a choice whether to finish or not to finish, or what did they use that space for, or what? Tell me about the second levels.
Right. So you're right. Our buyer, first of all, they're coming out of generally large houses that were built in the 70s and 80s, 3,000 square feet plus. So it scares them. How am I going to get down into 1,800 square feet, 2,100 square feet? 75% of the time, that's what our homeowners do. They take a one-story home. These homes are optimized in terms of space and storage for them. And there are only 2 bedrooms and a flex room on the main, so that's a lot of square footage, actually, for a couple. But 25% of the time, 25 to 30% of the time, they want that upstairs bonus, and I'm going to be dual marketing here. It's not a bonus room, it's a bonus suite. So it is a vaulted area that can be craft area, den, whatever, poker night room, plus a bedroom, plus a 3rd bathroom. So you're getting 500 to 700 square feet of extra living space, and it could be for out-of-town guests, grandchildren, crafts, at-home office. It could be, I can't figure out how to get rid of all my stuff, and I want to stick some of my stuff upstairs.
And it's away.
And it's away. But primarily, folks want to be on the main level.
Okay. Well, I think I want to take a walk out and let's
Sure.
tour the patio.
Sure.
And let's talk about some of that.
Because this is our differentiating feature.
Yeah. We're now out here on the patio at Nova Triad Homes here in High Point. One of the things we want to point out here is the size of the patio and how they're designed. Andy, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's a unique feature. It's a side patio, and it's fairly large for a reason. Our home buyers want to be outside and enjoy our Triad North Carolina climate. So they can enjoy this most of the year. And it has two access points right here, back into the kitchen, and then the owner's suite over here to my left, they can get to their bedroom. And this space is fairly customizable. They can screen in that area if they want. They can they can actually take their bedroom out and make it a sitting room. They can do all kinds of stuff out here, and this is really up to them. If they've got a small pet, we can fence this in. We can even put a privacy fence in around this completely. But this space is built for privacy. If you look across the way, you're staring at the side of the house, and it has no windows for a reason. Or if it does, it would have transom windows that are high. So this is a private space for the couple to enjoy outdoors, and they can entertain or they can read, etc. Very unique.
So a lot of thought probably goes into this when you're laying these sites out so that these side patios, make sure, like you said, there's no windows on the home beside us, which creates that kind of barrier for privacy.
Sure.
Even though the homes are clustered, it feels very secluded and private. You're not seeing or hearing your neighbors
Right.
everywhere.
I mean, we have about 15 to 20 feet between our houses, which actually is, compared to other parts of North Carolina, if you were in Chapel Hill or Charlotte, they'd be much closer. And this gives you a private courtyard, but also gives you a little bit of room for a small animal to walk around. If you want to walk around, if you want to do a little planting, because most of our home buyers do like some gardening. And so they just have enough space for them. And then obviously the homeowner association in our neighborhoods, they mow the yard and they maintain the landscaping. So you get to enjoy this private courtyard. That's a side courtyard. And the homeowner association takes care of the grass.
Right. So over here in this space, we talked a few minutes ago, or just a minute ago, about the options. A homeowner could extend the master.
They can.
They can screen this in. It has the nice privacy wall. I'm assuming if you don't screen it in regardless. So what makes this nice is, in this climate here, you have shade and cover. So you get out of the sun,
Correct.
get out of the rain, and still enjoy the outdoors.
Right, and so our home buyers, are meticulous. They'll come out and look at our sites before they build, and where's the sun going to be. And some want afternoon sun, some want morning sun. Obviously, depending on the subdivision, we've got houses positioned, all over the place. But this is a side patio product. It's very unique. We obviously have some rear patio product because some of our buyers want that as well, which is a little more common, to put the patio off the back of the house, off the back of the owner's suite. But the feature is you can always get to the patio from your bedroom and from the main part of the house.
Now we're in a detached unit.
Correct.
You also have attached product.
We do have some.
And we're not there. We may see some of that or get some video, but I'm sure that is also well thought out as far as the outdoor space. It may be designed a little different.
It is. It has a rear patio that's inset, but once again, right off the main part of the house and the bedroom if they want. And so, back to Epcon and why it's so important to us, they've done the research. This baby boomer generation wants to be outside. And remember, they're afraid, I'm coming out of 3,500 square feet, I'm going to 1,800, I'm not going to have enough space. Well, this is space. This is not.
This may be larger than what they're coming from.
Right. But this is part of their,
outdoor space.
this is part of where they're going to live, out here.
All right, we are outside of the model home here in High Point of Nova Triad Homes, and we're going to take a walk through the community and talk about the social and lifestyle aspects of what goes into a 55 and plus community. There's a lot of variations and things that some buyers may want and others may not. But let's take a walk and chat about some of that.
Sure.
And coming up with your conceptual ideas when you take a project on, what design concepts go into laying out your projects as far as, because you got to take on the social aspect of it.
Sure.
Because that's real important to this buyer.
Sure. I mean, I think the first thing we have to think about is our houses are generally clustered on purpose because our homeowner doesn't want a large yard, and we need to create a private patio for them. So our houses are close, and that creates an advantage from a socialization perspective. Our homeowners live within 20 feet of each other, so they get to know each other very quickly in this neighborhood. And as I said earlier, they're at a similar life stage. So the design of the neighborhood really fosters people getting to know each other and looking out for each other and taking care of each other. The second consideration, so we have to cluster. The second consideration is if the neighborhood is large enough, if we get 70 homes, then we start thinking about a clubhouse, a pool, an amenity, a community garden, other ways to create this social aspect.
Okay.
And with 70 homes, you can keep the homeowners' dues low enough where that makes sense. If you get below 70 homes, 60 homes, there's some homeowners that don't want that burden, don't want that pool. So then we get creative with gazebos, open space, areas near the common mailboxes. Gathering so that we can create spots for people to chat about whatever's going on in their lives.
Okay.
They can use our models for community events, which we do. They gather in cul-de-sacs. This neighborhood has a cul-de-sac. They'll throw a community party and we'll help sponsor that. So there's many ways for the folks to get together. And as I said earlier, they're at the same life stage. And so there's a natural affinity. People are talking about their grandchildren or where are you playing golf, et cetera.
Yeah, so many of these buyers are at a stage of life where many of them have just sent their children off to college or into the world potentially, and they're kind of reinventing themselves as far as being social and want to get out and do bucket list items and travel. And so you touched on a little bit of the maintenance free or low maintenance.
Right.
But as far as social gatherings, like you mentioned, some of these neighborhoods, there's certain sizes that don't make sense to have amenities and some that do. What types of activities do these residents like to do? What kind of gatherings do they have?
Sure. I mean, well, they have block parties when the weather allows for it. They can meet at our model. If there's a community garden, there's certainly gardening clubs. This neighborhood in particular has a women's group that gets together for lunch once a month, and they pick a spot. And so I'm sure that there are couples that go out to dinner together. There are folks that play golf together. Because as you said, most of this neighborhood is retired. We might have 20% that are still working. So they've got a lot of free time. Oak Hollow Golf Course is right around the corner. So there's many ways for people to get together. And a lot of them are new to the Triad, and so they're looking for friends, they're looking for relationships. As you said, it's an exciting time in their life.
Right. Now we are at the landing at Sycamore Creek. If you haven't been out here, please ride out here. We have several homes under construction to our right, and as on down the street, there's vacant home sites.
That's right.
So, there's opportunities out here for people to come and build or purchase something maybe already under construction.
That's correct. And High Point's a gem. It's the middle of the Triad. We're really close to the airport. We're close to amenities like Oak Hollow Golf Course and the lake. We're not far from Greensboro, Winston-Salem. We've got really good retail here, very close to Harris Teeter and Publix and Walmart and Home Depot. And not that they would need to go because they're in a low maintenance house. They probably don't go to Home Depot very often, but it's a really well-positioned spot in Northwest High Point.
So when people come into the sales center or the model homes, is that a question that's asked? Hey, I know people want to know, like, what goes on in your neighborhoods? I mean, are there events that, hey, I'm the sales agent or rep here in the neighborhood. Oh, the neighbors are having a cookout. They do once a month. Or are there things that are planned, or do they just kind of
Well, there's a little bit of both. There's a little bit of both. There's obviously unscheduled and there's planned. We're going to be rolling out Mingle at the Model. Every Thursday, once a month on a Thursday night. Mingle at the Model. Meet your neighbors. It also gives folks that are considering living here a chance to meet who their potential neighbors might be. Right. And creates a sense of community. We open up the Model. We would have some, wine and beer and
so
appetizers.
So that for prospects and homeowners?
Yes.
Okay.
Both. So Mingle at the Model is a way that, because we don't have a clubhouse here. If we had a clubhouse, it'd be easier.
Right.
So it's a blend of spontaneous interaction between the homeowners and us doing some scheduled events.
Yeah, and we were talking before we went on camera about some buyers, they love having a pool and a clubhouse, but there are a lot of buyers who actually prefer not to have that. So there's choices, number one.
Yes.
Because some people don't want the added HOA expense.
Right.
They're not going to use it. They're going to be here. They're here some. They're traveling some. They may have a second home somewhere.
That's right.
I think a lot of these buyers are potentially going to have a second home somewhere.
Right.
Or possible. That's an option.
That's right. And pools are important for grandchildren, certainly. But our studies have indicated that most of our homeowners really don't use them. And what's most important is the socialization. You get a lot of socialization with a shared amenity like a clubhouse and a pool, but what we've seen in our smaller neighborhoods in Kernersville and here in High Point, and we had one in Ashboro, is the socialization can occur without a clubhouse.
Yes.
And that's what people want. They want to age together, in a sense, with people that are in a similar life stage.
Right. Okay, Andy, we are out here now in front of some vacant sites. Tell us a little bit about your sites and what you have available.
Sure. This neighborhood has 36 homes. We have 6 lots left, so it's been a good neighborhood. And I don't think we've talked about it, but the majority of our homeowners enter into what we would call a pre-sale contract. They choose the model they want, and then we can semi-customize that house for them. So on these 6 lots, there's certain models that they can choose, not all of them because of considerations of lot depth and width. But we have an opportunity for folks to pick out their final home, the actual model, and then be semi-customizable on their options and selections.
Gotcha.
6 lots left.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for joining us today. If you would, remind our viewers where they can find information about Nova Triad Homes.
Sure. 3 different places. We obviously have our Nova Triad Homes website, www.novatriad.com.
Okay.
We're on Epcon's website, www.epcon.com, and then we're on social media, right? We're on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. Thank you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure, as
Enjoyed it.
always.
Enjoyed it.